Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Joel Gaslin. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for SightPath. We're grateful to have you here tonight. This is the first Mophie How I Did It seminar that we're putting on. If you think about SightPath, this spring will celebrate its 23rd anniversary being of service to physicians. That's how we were founded. That's what still drives us today. And we serve the cataract and refractive market, and now the laser cataract surgery market. So it was about a year ago today that we launched our first Mophie, the Mophie project, we call it. So mobile femto, we call it Mophie. Most of you know that. And we are fortunate and grateful enough to announce that on October 31st, we signed our 100th agreement. So we've come a long way with our project. We've had a lot of fun along the way. As we got started, we learned that there were a couple things that were sort of rate-limiting steps to adoption of the technology, and one of those was certainly the financial portion. And so at SightPath, we help with that by the opportunity to not have to invest the capital to get started. So we addressed that. And the other thing we learned was at the practice level, sort of the changes that have to happen in order to be successful there. So we looked at how do we help with that, like we do with all of our platforms, and how do we help people get better at what they're doing. So what we've done is put together a seminar for you that has people who have been in the business and gotten started. And what you see are the 5 surgeons behind me who are in varying stages of adoption. Our hope is that you'll be able to identify with someone there who sort of may I be like you, or you'll pick up some pearls in ways that you can get started in your practice. And the moderator of the event is Matt Jensen, the guy who I've known for a long time, and Matt helped us a lot with putting together the tools and parts of our service that help people with that. So behind me in the panel, you'll see the first one is Larry Patterson. Larry comes from Crossville, Tennessee, and Larry was our first actual mobile femtocataract surgeon, so we're grateful for that. The next gentleman is Dr. Jitendra Swarup. Jim works with us in Albemarle, North Carolina, and various other places. And the next is Dan Whipple, and Dan is with us in Avon, Indiana, and just outside of Indianapolis. The next is Mark Contos, and Mark is with us in Spokane, Washington. And as you see in your program, I also have to ask Mark. Mark is a Top Gun surgeon, or was in the Top Gun program, so I have to ask him, what was your call sign?
We always get the same one, and it's Doc. Everybody, the Doc, I was a flight surgeon, so we get Doc. That's kind of what we
do. So nothing like Maverick or Goose or anything.
You know, the other thing about that is you don't get to pick your call sign, by the way. It finds you, and you have no say in it whatsoever, so that's how it goes up.
And then the final panelist is a good friend and very experienced cataract surgeon and laser cataract surgeon Vance Thompson from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So again, my hope is these gentlemen represent varying stages along the continuum of adoption, and Matt will lead them through a series of questions, really a discussion, and then we'll open up for questions for people to ask and really come away with some nice understanding. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Joel, and thanks SightPath team, Peter, in your new role, and the rest of the marketing and sales team that you see there back in the back. It takes a lot of work to put an event like this together, and then for all of you, obviously, thanks for coming. There's a lot of opportunities you have tonight to spend your time in this beautiful city, and a lot of things to do in this industry tonight, and so it means a lot to us. You can spend your time here with us to learn about this important technology at this important time. Timing is everything. When we think of how and why we implemented femto technology into our program in South Dakota, I work at the practice that Dr. Thompson does. This is a unique time. Market pressures are such where cataract surgery, we all know, it's on the rise because of the baby boomer population, the folks with the propensity to have these kinds of age-related, lenticular issues. They're going to go up 7 to 10% every year for the next 20 years. That's good news for you. But we also know that reimbursement is going down and down and down every single year as well, and has no sign of going up anytime soon. And so femtosecond and the new lens options, they give us some hope on shifting some of the weight of our practice from an economic standpoint onto a whole new, to give us more stability on both legs. And so that's why tonight's so exciting. At our practice, we have a couple of premises. First is to always invest in the world's best technology, and second is to treat our patients and our friends like gold. And so SightPath's been a friend of our program for a long, long time, and it makes us real proud to be able to be here with you tonight to talk about this exciting opportunity that now SightPath's bringing to your doorstep. So with that, I get a couple of housekeeping items from myself for all of you. We have a number of questions that we're going to go through tonight, but it's going to be casual in nature. And so, like Joel said, the goal is to help you identify with somebody on the podium or on the stage here who can help you identify with how you might roll things out at your practice if you considered the MOFI program for your neck of the woods. So we'll get to know each one of your practices individually first by asking you to give a little bit of an overview. And then I'll be lobbing out questions that I'll call on one of you to answer, and then the rest of you can kind of pepper in and pipe in after that, and it'll be very casual. Then at the end, as some of the questions are coming to a close from me, we'll give you the opportunity to ask your questions. And so keep that in mind as we're going through tonight's sessions, that if you've got something burning in your mind that you want to just ask them how they did it in their practice, whether it's technique or operations in nature, you'll have your opportunity to ask those questions as we get going. So really, to get things started, Dr. Patterson, I'll just start with you. Just give us a little bit more color on the kind of practice that you've built in your market, and what are some of the market demographics and the pressures that led you to make your decision towards MOFI?
I've heard people speak and they'll talk about they come from a rural area. I really do come from a rural area. My wife is with me. We got married last year, and she comes from Atlanta, Georgia, and she can tell you how rural it really is. But there's maybe 10,000 people in the city limits and about 60,000 people in the county, and it's a pretty large geographic county. It's not devastatingly poor, but it's not. We're not filled with wealth or anything like that. I've been there 25 years. I started the practice as just a startup practice, and we now have 4 satellites in surrounding communities, 3 of which are definitely more impoverished than where I live. And we started this in March, the first practice to do the MOFI with SightPath. So that's our market. It's rural, it's below average in economics, and yet we've been very successful with this project.
Thank you for that. Dr. Swarup, how about your marketplace?
Well, I'm in northeastern North Carolina, and it's a pretty rural area also. So I went there in 1995 and joined a practice, and then built that practice up. Some of the cities that I'm in, some of the towns I'm in, are about 15 to 17,000 people, and they draw from a larger area also. And for us, as we grew, our geographic footprint got so large that we had to add additional offices. So we now have 4 main centers and 7 total. And so when this technology came around, we were struggling with the issue of how do we implement it, and that's when we looked at SightPath. I've been working with SightPath since '95, and so I thought it's the natural next step to look at it and provide the services for us.
My name's Dan Whipple, and none of you have ever heard of me because I'm usually not up on a panel. I'm usually in the audience like you are, and really I am you, and I would just say each and every one of you can do what I did and easily take my place up here on this panel with these other prestigious doctors that you've all heard of. But I like to say, Larry, just a simple country doctor from Avon, Indiana. It's a suburb of Indianapolis. And I don't own an ASC. I have one little office. I'm a solo practitioner. I've been in practice about 21 years. I just put a shingle up and waited for people to show up. And I couldn't afford to buy a Lensex laser. But I came to that community because my wife grew up in that area. My parents taught me a lot of things growing up, but one thing I had to learn on my own was that you live wherever your wife tells you you're going to live. So I've been happily in Avon, Indiana for 21 years. And I came there because prior to that, the patients were traveling 20 miles to Indianapolis to get adequate surgical eye care. And so I wanted to bring to that community state-of-the-art technology and state-of-the-art surgery for them. And part and parcel of that now is the opportunity for them to have femtosecond laser-assisted cataract surgery. And if it weren't for SightPath, I can't afford to buy the laser. I couldn't afford to do it. But now, it's just great in my community that I can offer this. And I tell my patients, right here in Avon, Indiana, you can't go to New York or LA or Chicago and get any more advanced technology than what I can offer you right here in Avon.
How about you, Dr. Contos?
I'd just like to say I'm really glad that my wife is not here after that comment that you just made, because I would not be in Coeur d'Alene. Well, I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
And
I wouldn't be there if that was the case right now, so I'm glad she didn't make
And I'm
this
very
trip.
unhappy my wife is here. But
my practice is based in Spokane, Washington, which is kind of the other part of Washington. And we have offices in a couple different areas, Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, and also in some rural areas in Idaho. And my relationship with SightPath started like yours did, with them helping me with some cataract projects that we were doing in outlying areas, which has worked extremely well. So number one, the company was a company that I had experience with and understood how they worked, and they're very reliable for me. So that made it easy for me to think about this other aspect of things. But really, the reason we're doing this, or one of the reasons, there's numerous reasons that can come out as we talk, but was that I have a partner. We're equal owners of our practice, and my feelings about the laser were a little bit different than his. I was a lot more excited about this technology than he was, and he was very skeptical about using this laser. And so it became an option for us, a way to kind of bring the technology into our practice, satisfy my desire to get moving with this, and also satisfy his desire to kind of tread slowly and steadily, and that it allowed us that option. So that was really kind of one of the main reasons why we did this. But that's primarily how it's happened. We started in June, and as we talk more tonight, it's definitely been ramping up significantly since that time for us. So it's been a very positive experience.
Dr. Thompson, maybe you can tell us about how your program set up a little differently than the mobile programs listed here.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, SightPath, for having me be a part of this wonderful panel discussion, and with the docs and all of us trying to be the best we can be. And for me, the decision to get into femto technology was pretty easy because I had experienced other technology transitions from RK to PRK, from blade flaps to laser flaps, and so I had worked with the Interlace team and was an early adopter of that technology, and saw what that had done for my patients and for my interpees. And so I was really excited to do the same transition into femtosecond technology. So for me, it was more a matter of just can't wait to get it into my hands, because I had a lot of confidence. And in my practice, it's been a refractive surgery driven practice, and as far as seeing refractive surgery move towards the lens, it's become more and more refractive cataract surgery, and the femtosecond laser is used in about 40% of my cases now, and about half my patients are word-of-mouth referrals, or half are optometrically driven, and we're all sounds like we're all practicing rural. We just got electricity, and but that's kind of my practice from the point of a refractive surgery practice who's grown in lens surgery.
I want to know why Vance gets background music and we didn't get that.
Well, yeah, it does seem like whenever you speak, Vance, I hear sweet, sweet music. It's some kind of magic. Oh, okay, good point. Dr. Contos, I want to follow up a little bit on your question, because we've certainly heard it in our practice, and it sounds like you had it right within yours. But there's some skepticism about the technology, right? And I remember when Dr. Thompson and I were looking at the technology at Ascris in San Diego a few years back in 2011. There was a lot of people who were naysayers and were saying, well, that's just an expensive circle maker. How have you overcome some of the skepticism, even within your own practice, that may be there for the capital outlay, which this is a nice answer for, but then also for the rest of you to think about, how do you talk about it in your community now, knowing that it's not something that everybody's adopted yet? How have you handled the skepticism?
Yeah, well, for us, and it really was that way, because for me, I kind of got on board with this early. As soon as Steve Slade got his laser in Houston, I went down there and visited and saw him do cases. I kind of saw the power of it in my mind, it was pretty clear that this was something I wanted to be involved in. But that's just me. Then there's another whole side of my practice that, that's just as important as my thoughts. And my partner, he was skeptical. And I can tell you flat out, the way to deal with skepticism in this is to do something. It's as simple as that. I mean, and that's what happened with him. He didn't even when we started the SightPath program, he kind of came in screaming and kicking a little bit. But he's probably a stronger believer in the technology now than I was. And simply for no other reason than he's a cornea specialist, and his practice is a little different than mine, that he has a little more challenging cataract cases when they come to cataract than I do. And he saw immediately and early the value of the laser in those cases. And that won him over. The first day he did surgery, there was a particular case that won him over almost immediately. And now he's, very, very enthusiastic about it. And he's doing actually more laser cataract surgery than I am at the moment. But so that was really how it changed. And I think that's true for probably, I would imagine, a lot of even the panel here. We all are a little bit skeptical. And then you start doing cases and you see really what it's like to do these cases and how the patients are doing and just how much fun it is in some ways and how it saves you in other ways. And you just kind of like, this is kind of the way I want to do it. I imagine, like you said, 40%, you probably wish that was 100%.
Yeah.
I do too. I wish all my cases were with the laser, quite frankly.
I'll say this, if it were covered by insurance, it would be 100%.
Yeah.
Every single cataract with a pupil big enough to do the laser would be done by laser if it were covered by insurance.
We're all glad it's not covered by insurance.
Thank you for going on record. Yeah. Have any of you all, have any others combated any skepticism in a way other than you've already heard?
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of skepticism, but I know my staff, they were very concerned about whether or not this would work. I mean, we were, again, in our ongoing battle for who lives in the poorest area, because we actually did have to walk barefoot to school, uphill both ways in the snow. But we had maybe 10 or 15% of our patients were, before we did the laser, were opting for some sort of refractive option. And the vast majority of those were not multifocal implants or crystal lenses or torics. The vast majority of those were just paying a few $100s for an LRI. And that's what got our numbers up to 10 to 15%. After the laser, our refractive options with the laser went up to 25 to 30%, and we were charging almost twice as much. It didn't make any sense, but now it was, there's some, and the finish at the end of the first day of our surgery, I just remember our staff, everyone was converted that day. Everyone once we saw it, it was, gee, that is so cool. And everyone got on board just immediately.
I just want to add one thing. I agree. As far as skepticism with us, I think it was more so that most surgeons will say, I do a pretty good capsulorhexis myself. I mean, I do a really good slick cataract surgery. I mean, why do I need this laser? And have to change the way I've been doing things for so long. But once you see it and actually do some cases, you'll realize this really does a better cataract surgery. I mean, if you're a good surgeon, you're going to be a better surgeon. If you're a great surgeon, you're going to be even a better surgeon than that, because it allows you to be so precise and it truly makes the procedure easier to do. Whether it's patients with extremely dense cataracts or just run-of-the-mill cases, or even patients who have Fuchs dystrophy, things such as that, where you want to be very careful with the cornea. I mean, this reduces the energy in the eye tremendously and just makes a better procedure.
I think a few of the misconceptions that I had in the beginning, first one of my worries was, can we afford it? Because it is a big commitment financially. And if I would have had a chance to start mobily, I think we would have started mobily, because it's just such a wonderful way to begin versus making that big commitment in the beginning. So that was one worry. And then the other was, if we didn't get a complete capsulotomy, because this was early in its development, if we don't get a complete capsulotomy, am I going to have an extension or something like that? And I found early on that if there was some place in the procedure I needed to stop, the pupil was coming down or something that it was different than a laser flap where it had to stop, is you just take off in the operating room with your traditional techniques. And so that was very comforting also, because that was something that I worried about. And we didn't have many capsular adhesions, those postage stamp adhesions, but the soft fit with the LensX really took care of the small percentage we were seeing. The other thing I worried about was time. I worried that it was going to make my day longer and I was going to be more inefficient, but it really, when it got down to it, added about 2 to 4 minutes per case. And then the final thing that I think was actually the most stressful thing, and this is where I appreciated having Matt, and that was, how are we going to price this? And Matt developed some methodology that ended up bringing me a lot of inner peace of how to actually charge for a technology we're not supposed to charge for. And the fact of the matter is, we've taken the golden scalpel rule to the nth degree, and that is, unless you're treating refractive error, the astigmatism, whether you use a blade, diamond, or laser, you can't charge extra for cataract surgery. And so, and Matt's written about this, but it was very helpful for me. So those were my main worries in the beginning that we had to get over.
And in response to that, Dr. Thompson, I appreciate you referencing it. One of the things we'll talk about downstream tonight is some of the things that the SightPath team does to support you in your transition to come up with that modeling yourself. And all those things are on your resource library on the SightPath website. So they've done a good job of taking what we've learned together and implementing it for your practices, and I know for the potential of your practices too. So I appreciate that segue. Dr. Whipple, did you want to mention something on that particular topic?
I would just say, my impression is that most of the skeptics have never done femto laser cystic cataract surgery. And it's just better. It's better for the patient, it's better for the doctor. When you walk in as the surgeon into the OR and you swing the microscope over and you look through the microscope, and this eye has been treated with the femto, and you look down and there's a perfect capsular rhexis right in the center of that pupil. And the lens is already, the nucleus is all divided up for you. There's this sense of calm that comes over you. And it's like a load of bricks off your shoulders. And it's like, gosh, this is awesome. I can just finish this so easily now. I'm a golfer. It's like somebody would just set the ball right next to the hole and say, all right, now hit it in the hole. And that's really what it does. And I tell the patients, this is a femtosecond laser. That's a quadrillionth of a second, and a computer runs this laser exactly to your specifications that we've measured in the office. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm pretty good as a cataract surgeon with my hands, but I can't do anything with my hands in a quadrillionth of a second. It's precise at a molecular level, and that's how.
That's such an excellent way to describe it too, to put the patient at ease too with the technology. That's a nice transition to kind of how all of you were talking to your patients about the technology. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Patterson again. Can you just kind of go through exactly how you bring it up to your patient, and what kind of language do you use in that conversation?
We're definitely not very heavy-handed in this. We were a little concerned at first, but we really got over that very quickly, found out we were going to have the numbers to make this work very easily. We've not done any external marketing. Now, what I'm telling you is not the way you should do it. I'm just saying we're doing well without any external marketing, virtually no internal marketing. If an optometrist sends me a patient, we try to make sure they get some literature about it, so at least they can read something about it. But mostly it's just me talking to the patient. And after I examine them and talk to them about cataract surgery, we talk about risks and benefits of cataract surgery, sort of I walk them through the process. And I tell them we have a couple of options. We've got the basic option, and I tell them, and it's perfectly fine. I've been doing this for 25 years, which really is painful to say. But you're getting old in this when the music in the operating room, your patients are beginning to like it. So, but I tell them we have these two options. There's the basic option, and I don't try to say we stab your eye with a knife, but I tell them we do it in a manual fashion by hand, using blades and needles, and I tell them how and I say we do a good job of that. We have another option, and that's the laser option. The laser has the advantage of being more accurate and precise which leads me to be able to give you the ability to see better without glasses. And in similar ways, you mentioned, that I'm a very good surgeon with my hands, but I just can't possibly be as accurate with the laser. I tell them that I don't get into details about docking because I don't want to unnecessarily worry them, but I tell them that the laser, when we put the laser over your eye, I say it sort of locks in onto your eye, and I say your eye shows up on a big TV screen, and I'll reach over and I'll say, we have a mouse like this, and I said it'll move the wound wherever we want it to be, and we go, let's move that a 1/10 of a millimeter over, and once we get everything done and everything is exactly where I want it to be, and we all agree, then we just say, okay, go, and I push a foot pedal, and in 30 seconds, all the cuts are made, and it's kind of like ordering a kit where everything's already been pre-cut, and by machine, everything's just perfect. And when I go into the operating room to do your laser, everything's pre-cut. We just go right through those incisions. And I do tell them this also, because I'm always concerned. I don't want to take a patient who's struggling day to day financially to feed their family, to make the mortgage payment. And I tell them, if the regular cataract surgery is this good, with the laser, it's this good, okay? I tell them it's not this good, okay, but it is better. And, and especially when you're talking to men, to use the phrase, if you can afford this, I think it would be a good idea. If you can't, don't worry about it. Now, men, the psychology and sales of men and women is very different, so you don't necessarily do that with a woman. But with the men, you say that because if they can afford it, they will. You've almost kind of laid a gauntlet, you laid it down. But I'm just absolutely amazed how you'll see the patient sort of struggling, trying to decide what they want, and the family members over there saying, honey, we've got the money, So, and we actually don't finance very much either. We have it as an option, but we're basically saying, and again, with that, we're in a rural area, we're having about 25 to 30% conversions, and it's just not a hard sell. I could go to 50% really easily. It wouldn't be difficult, but with a very soft sell, in the 25 to 30% range.
That whole discussion is really around the golden scalpel issue of the femto. And so how do you make that fit when they're choosing it based on the golden scalpel benefit?
But you heard me say, I'm talking about the accuracy of the golden scalpel, which leads us to the result of being able to reduce your dependency on glasses. Now, when we get past that, we go into all the different refractive options. But no, we make it very clear. It is the accuracy that allows us to have the refractive options. So I may not have emphasized that enough, but it's a very good point.
Dr. Swarb, how do you communicate this offering to your patients? Is it connected to, the lenses and things like that as well?
It is. In our practice, our practice is structured in a way where mostly, I do most of the surgery in the practice and don't really have much of a clinic. So they're referred to me by my doctors. So in my clinic day, we'll have a number of cataract evaluations, and they'll go through what I call a circuit. And excuse me, they'll come in, and they will meet my surgery counselor, who will go ahead and discuss the different choices that they have. We never use options; we always say choices. They'll get a topography, and my surgery counselor has counseled many thousands of patients for me. So she is a believer in femtosecond. We were careful about getting her involved in it, and so. It'll be discussed with them before I ever see them that there are two types of surgeries that Dr. Swarb does. There's a traditional surgery, and he's done X number of those, and then there's the laser surgery, and he will talk to you about those. And then we use she has an iPad with a video that shows exactly how a femto laser surgery is done and how a traditional surgery is done. So they see in the animation the knife and the blade, and in the animation the laser. Then it's discussed with them the different opportunities they have as far as different lenses based on the topography results and so on. And that is incorporated with the discussion of two surgeries. You can have any of these choices with either of these surgeries. Dr. Swarb will talk to you about it a little bit more. But based on the amount of astigmatism you have, he will probably recommend the toric implant because you have this amount of astigmatism, but he'll make the decision. All that's put on a sheet of paper, and the patient's fully worked up, and by the time I see them, and all the pricing has been discussed too. So by the time I see them, I examine them, I look at the topography, I look at the lifestyle questionnaire that we have, which is critical. And then I tell them, based on this, what I would recommend is, for example, the toric implant. And then I tell them, there are these two types of surgeries that Janine mentioned, the traditional surgery and the laser cataract surgery. I've done a lot of these traditional surgeries, I'm really very good at it, but the laser surgery, in my opinion, that's the key, in my opinion, is just a better procedure. It is very precise, it is very accurate, it allows me to do your entire procedure without touching you with a knife or blade. And for that reason, I think you should consider it. It's not something you have to have, but it's certainly something that if you can do, you should really consider it. Regarding the intraocular lens, I tell them this will help correct most or all of your astigmatism. And if you choose this implant, do it because you want better vision. Don't do it because you want to get out of glasses, but you probably will end up getting out of glasses. But you should choose it because it will give you better vision. And that's what we need.
That's an important distinction too, when you talk about the functional vision afterwards, and I appreciate that. And both, just to your question earlier, you pay special attention, audience, on some of the first panelists and how they've talked about what the charge is for. What the charge is for is actually not for the laser itself, but for the refractive options or the refractive outcome. And that's a really important distinction if you read some of the regulatory pathways that govern this category in our practices. Dr. Whipple, can you kind of go through your patient conversation?
Sure. I'm a general ophthalmologist, so I'm just going room to room, trying not to get too far behind. I tend to chit-chat too much. My staff's telling me, I'm so impressed how you get out of all this clinic stuff. I mean, that's just, And then it does take longer these days with the choices the patients have, the options that they have. So I get my little Crames book out and I explain, just what a cataract is and how it's affecting their eyes and go through each procedure. I do 100% topical. I've done since 1996, January. Half my patients get no sedation, so they can cooperate a lot better. I give them a little verbal massage during surgery. I've talked to them at length myself prior, and that helps that. I have a few patients each month. We don't promote this. They drive themselves to surgery, have surgery, drive to the office afterward, or go to the golf course afterward. But then when it comes time to talking about the laser now, I've done this since June. I have about a 45% conversion rate. And there's no hard sell here. I talk in terms of opportunities. I talk in terms of this is not an expense, this is an investment. You're going to use this result every waking moment the rest of your life. There is nothing you're going to get better value out of than your cataract surgery. You can buy an expensive car, a fancy entertainment system. Those are going to wear out. I often compare to hearing aids. Hearing aids are about $4,000. They're going to wear out. You're going to have to go get new ones. You're going to have to buy batteries for those. Dental procedures, same way. And I talk in terms of there's more and more things coming along in medicine as we have advanced technologies that insurance led by Medicare is just not going to cover. And we're going to have more opportunities with patient shared expenses if people elect to do it. You do not have to do this. And I emphasize, you don't have to decide sitting in the chair right here. I just want you to realize what your options are.
That's excellent. Dr. Contos, how do you have your patient discussion?
Well, for me, I've always kind of been a person who's sort of taken the path of least resistance and kind of do things the easiest way I can. And I figured, I don't really need to reinvent the wheel here. This isn't something that hasn't already been sorted out by practices that I consider, much more highly refined than mine. So I kind of just looked to my friends who I admire greatly. So I looked at what Vance and you were doing, quite frankly, and some other practices.
That's what we can say.
Yeah. And I basically structured my program around that, and it's worked very well for us. But in a nutshell, I look at it a little bit differently. I don't separate the laser out as much in the discussion. I don't try and make that a unique aspect of the discussion. I really just say to the patient, what do you really want after cataract surgery? I mean, how do you want things to end up? Are you okay with being dependent on glasses to some degree after cataract surgery and want to see well and that's okay, then we do that surgery. We do our regular cataract surgery. If you want to get free of glasses for driving and your distance activities, we can offer that for you. There's an additional expense that's going to go along with that. And if you want to go beyond that and try and get as full of independence from glasses as you can achieve, we'll offer you that process or that program. And within those two last programs, that's where the laser comes in. And if they choose one of those two, they're going to get laser surgery in conjunction with that. And if they choose number one, they won't. And unless, with the exception, if I see a patient who I just decide I want to use the laser to do this case, then I'll just do it, and I'll cover that cost myself. And we do that occasionally because I do feel that it is the right way to do surgery in a lot of circumstances that have nothing to do with a premium lens. But in my feelings about the premium lens categories, if we're going to make that commitment to a patient and they're going to pay us money to do it, I'm going to use the best technology I have available to do that surgery. And in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone by any means, the laser is the way to do that. You're going to achieve the best likelihood of getting the result you want in that scenario. So I'll offer the laser in that area. We've had, very little issue with that. It's worked very smoothly. It's simple. Patients understand it. And it just allows us to move on to the other aspects of the discussion. But they make a decision and off we go.
Thanks, Mark. And I'm going to come back to I want to follow up with the times that you don't charge, because I think that's also a worthy discussion of what those moments where you feel like it's just the best thing for the patient, almost from a therapeutic standpoint. That's an interesting thing we'll draw light on. In just a minute, because Vance, I want to hear from you on what your patient discussion is like, because by and large, it leaves out the technology talk until the end.
And my desire is like everybody in this room, and that is to answer our patients' needs and what do they want. And by the time they've seen me, they've seen our preoperative the brochure, they've seen a video, they've been worked up by the technician, and they've seen our optometrist who's also educated them. And so it's time for me to summarize the situation. And I really go in there with the goal of covering three things, what are their visual desires and what technology it takes to get there and what's it going to cost. And so one of the things I loved about what everybody said, everybody's focused on vision. And I'm the same way. If someone is comfortable wearing glasses, typically we're going to do traditional cataract surgery. Unless it's a situation like Mark said, someone that we're going to do a no-charge type of laser procedure. But in general, we're big believers in traditional cataract surgery too. Those 40% in my practice that want to do a lot without glasses, then we talk about the technology that we use to get there. One being the laser-assisted approach, and we talk about its precision and that it has a refractive benefit, how important that capsulotomy size is for centration and a consistent diameter, and that actually if that capsule isn't nice, we're not going to be able to put in that advanced implant. So the refractive benefit of the laser and precision we highlight, and then we talk about intraoperative aberrometry, how we're trying to hit that refractive goal. And then if we don't get you right where you want to be, healing, effective lens position, whatever, then we do a laser enhancement 3 months down the road. And so I tell them, if you don't mind wearing glasses, there's no reason to invest a boatload of money in this advanced technology. If you do mind wearing glasses, there's technology that's been developed that can help you do the majority of your life without glasses for the rest of your life. And unlike your natural lens that gradually deteriorated and you lost your near vision, there's technology that can help you have that near vision consistently for the rest of your life. And that's the type of discussion we have. And they really do, like Mark says, the path of least resistance. If you just tease out what your patient desires are, they fall into one of those two buckets.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we've talked about one audience, the patient and their education and how we have that conversation. But how have you brought the staff along? And Dr. Whipple, I'll start with you since you've done it the most recently. How have you brought the staff along and got them indoctrinated to believe, in the technology and to be on point as far as what to say and when?
Well, number one, they know that in my heart of hearts, I really believe in the technology, and I really believe that it's better for the patient. and better for the doctor. If I were going to have cataract surgery today, it would be more important to me that it's done with a femtosecond laser than specifically who I would have do it. So the staff, that flows from me to the staff. I don't have a big staff. I don't have optometric referrals. It's just my little, group of patients here. I have a surgery coordinator that is down in the operating room, in the preoperative and postoperative area, so the patients can see, a familiar face, and she does my A scans and also discusses with the patient, and she's seen me do femtos and seen other practices do femtos as well. And that's by and large. We did have a video that we showed the whole staff prior to going live. I'm great at stealing things from friends, and so my friend Brad Black was an early adopter, and he's about 2 hours away, and I can go down and steal videos from Brad and bring it back and show them to my staff.
Excellent. How about some of the rest of you? How have you gotten your staff involved as far as understanding the technology and knowing how to talk about it with your patients?
We did a similar thing. We had a big staff meeting. We have about 65 staff, but although yours are all in one place and ours are spread all over the place, but we about twice a year we bring everyone in together when we knew it was coming, and we showed them videos and still some of y'all's videos, I think, too. A bunch of thieves up on the stage, basically. But what we found really made a difference when we first started doing it. We noticed that in our 4 outlying areas where which are mostly optometric offices that we own, we weren't getting the reception was not quite as good, and so one by one, we had already done it in our own office. We had all of our staff one by one come down to get to watch one, and when they watch it, they're just amazed. By the same token, our patients' families are given the opportunity to watch it. We have a room, both a window looking into our laser room, and then a window on the other side looking into the OR. And families are always amazed too, and I think that's got to be great for PR. But when the staff actually got to walk inside the room and just sit against the wall and watch the laser and see that, it is an expensive circle marker, by the way. It does other things too, but it's for sure expensive. But the first thing, just watching that capsulati magically appear, it's just the coolest thing. And so we started getting the staff from the other offices to come down. I wanted to make sure everyone, from our opticians to the guy who grinds the lenses to the people who check in and check out, I want to make sure everyone got to see. And it has made a big difference. I mean, once they see it, they just get that. That's really all it takes for the most part is just seeing it.
What about you, Mark? How have you gotten your staff involved?
It's interesting. The laser actually kind of gave me some insight into my staff that I didn't really have previously, or should have, but really didn't, or wasn't thinking about as much as I should have. And that is how invested they are in the success of your practice beyond just them having job security. They take ownership in it as much as you do, and sometimes as physicians we lose sight of that a little bit. But when we got the laser, when we started having the laser come in, you could see that. They took pride in the fact that they were working in a practice that was kind of on the leading edge of technology in our community. There's no one else in our area. You have to go to Seattle to find another femtosecond laser, and there's no one else in the region doing it. And so we're kind of leading, and they took a lot of pride in that. And so just from that, just in and of itself, they were very excited about it. The hiccups that we have in terms of, the time and how much additional time it might add and that sort of thing, which all that gets less and less as you use, that was never an issue for them. And they readily were happy to take on this new responsibility, if you will, about having to do things a little bit differently than we were doing in a very well-oiled cataract system. They had to make changes, and they readily and happily did that because of this other issue that I was describing that I didn't really recognize until not too long ago. And I had a discussion with my surgery director, and she was talking about that and how important that was to the staff, that we're doing this, that we're the practice that's doing this, not the other practices in town. Who they, run into those technicians and stuff on occasion. It's like, hey, we're the ones that have the laser, that kind of deal. And that means a lot. And that was something that I didn't really understand or took for granted maybe in the past. So that it's actually created sort of a camaraderie or I don't know, an elite kind of feeling about themselves and that sort of thing that's kind of interesting to see as a surgeon. That's been a surprise to me. But we have a great staff anyway, so I mean, they'll do whatever I ask them to do. I mean, if we have to do other things and extra stuff here and there, they're happy to do it, and I'm not sure why, but I'm lucky in that regard. And so it's been an easy transition. That was never an issue for us. I mean, they were just like, okay, how do we make this work? What do we got to do? Or I have an idea that's better than this. And actually, my staff has helped us streamline the process. I haven't had to sit there and think, okay, how can we be a little quicker with this? How can we make this work a little easier? They come to me with, let's do this instead of that. And I think if we have the situation with the patient this way, it'll be better. And so they've actually made my life a lot easier. And introducing something new into your practice kind of does that with. It creates this new excitement, this new interest, this new vitality, if you will. And you see that. And that's intangible in some ways. It's almost like a mental raise, if you will. It makes everybody feel really good. And so it's been a nice thing in that regard.
Dr. Thompson, have you experienced similar energy being breathed into your program?
Yeah, we really have. I mean, whenever we've received a new technology, obviously I focus on educating myself first, and then educating the team, and then the referring docs, and then I'm comfortable to start talking with patients about it. But I found the same thing as these guys. It really energized our practice. We were sitting there at about 10 to 15% of our patients choosing the premium journey prior to getting the femtosecond technology. And that in common, getting the femtosecond laser and the intraoperative aberrometer played a role in this too. Something magical happened in our program, and our staff, like Mark was saying, we're proud to be delivering advanced technology. They were used to lasers. I think we had 8 of them, and so educating on that was easy. It was very intuitive to them, the precision that resonated. But when you explain to your staff that when you pre-treat a lens and you're using less energy intraoperatively and it's easier on the endothelium, there's less inflammation, less corneal edema, and it's a more accurate refractive procedure when you're doing refractive cataract surgery. That does make them proud to be a part of that program, and it did energize our program. It also energized our referring docs. We do a referring doctor symposium every year. And I remember we did that symposium that year, and we asked the docs in audience questionnaire, if you were going to have cataract surgery, would you want to have it traditional or laser assisted? Over 90% of the doctors, and these were optometrists, said they would want to have the laser assisted way. I gave a talk at Refractive Surgery Subspecialty Day last year and asked the same question to the ophthalmology audience, and 60% of them said they would want to have it laser assisted. I then said, if you were having cataract surgery in 3 years, what percentage of you do you believe would want to have laser assisted cataract surgery? And it was 95%. So you can see everybody's thinking about this technology and the role that they wanted to play in their practice.
I want to stay on that topic for a minute here too, Vance, because one of the things that you've heard from everybody up here from a staffing perspective, and like we said from the very beginning, when you have a tenant of your practice that you're going to use the world's most advanced technology, and your team learns that that's out there and you don't have it, there can be a little bit of a rift. But when you do back up, your kind of tenant, your mission, and you support it in this way, the site path is allowed, then they get some swagger. And so one of the things I thought I'd ask, just because I don't want to leave it sitting there, you talked about some of the things early on with the technology, specifically Vance, since you've been using it the longest from the 5th one in the world. Can you just walk us through the pathway of what improvements have taken place over the last 3 years since you've had it in your practice?
Well, I think one of the biggest improvements, I use the Lens X laser, and I've seen different software improvements happen every 6 months, and the main areas that has helped is, in particular, the OCT. Since this is image-guided surgery, that OCT image ends up being really important to start the procedure and to do it with precision. The soft fit interface has become real important. That curved soft interface, number one, it doesn't fog, and so when we were docking, in the beginning we were having some fogging, and sometimes it made visualization a little bit more difficult. But with the soft fit device, visualization is beautiful all the way. And then the curved interface with docking kind of auto-centrated it. The cornea snug fit in there just beautifully, and so that was real helpful, because sometimes when you're fitting a flat interface on a curved cornea, you can get a little bit of shift, so that curved interface really helped. We also didn't need to raise the pressure nearly as much. The LensX device was already raising pressure less than the Interlace technology, but it went to another level of raising the pressure lower with the soft fit, raised it on average about 14 millimeters of mercury. So the glaucoma contraindication has actually been removed when you're using the soft fit for that reason. The other thing it did is it induced less corneal folds. And so the pristine nature of the OCT now, and not seeing any shadowing, really allows for precise imaging, and that's why we're getting nearly 100% free floating caps. And so that has been real important. We've also, because of that, because those folds have been eliminated, you can turn your energy down to half what you were using before. So it's an even faster, gentler procedure. Those are the main things I've seen happen over time, some neat advancements.
Thanks for that. Any others want to talk about the technological advantages or enhancements that have been made?
I just want to make one comment about what you were saying, that I think the other thing to add with the soft fit was, it's like I'd mentioned, I'd had the opportunity to go see early surgery with Dr. Slade, about a month after he got his laser. And the one thing that I didn't like when I saw that is that almost every one of the patients had pretty significant conjunctival hemorrhage issues going on. And we always, your patients judge you a lot the next day, and your eyes all red, and it's like, what happened? And I was thinking, okay, these are all people who are paying kind of a premium price for premium surgery, and they're all coming back with these big conjunctival hemorrhages. And the soft fit has really, really taken that way down. I mean, those patients the next day look pretty much like a regular cataract surgery patient for the most part. Now occasionally you get something that's like that, but I think that's another point, that when you were talking about that made me think that that's a big difference, and that's a real plus. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with surgery, but it really does have a lot to do with perception, which is an important issue. So that was another advantage, I felt.
I think another nice thing, you were talking about the soft fit. When we did our first cases in March, and we had the soft fit, we've never had it any other way. And that would go for the rest of us. But at ASCRS in April, out in San Francisco this year, I went to a big LensX meeting, and you could tell, here I was, a brand new surgeon. I'd only done this 2 days, and I had the soft fit, and a lot of the people out there in the audience hadn't gotten their upgrade yet. So it was kind of nice. We did that from the very beginning. And my first day, we did 12 cases, and every single one of them had a free floating capsulorhexis. And we've had maybe one that I had to pull a little bit. I'm not sure if it was free floating or not, but in about 200 cases, we've not had a single tag, tear, and maybe I've just been lucky, but it really, that was one of my concerns going into this, because early on we were hearing all these kind of scary things that had happened and all that. Something could happen, but I'm just saying it's really nice right now.
Not to put a plug in for SightPath, but the reason he had soft fit before the other surgeons is because he went through SightPath, and they had fitted their lasers with the soft fit just as soon as it became available. So that makes a real difference.
Let's talk now for a second about how you were actually recruiting patients, and we can take this in down two roads. First of all, with your direct-to-consumer approach, how are you positioning this in your marketplace? Or at the same time, how are you couching this with your referral network? And Vance, I'll maybe start with you, and we'll work this way, and we can just talk about how you're building demand for this technology.
Well, it seems to me that cataract surgery is building itself. It just amazes me the amount of people that need cataract surgery. So for one, we don't do a ton of direct-to-consumer cataract surgery marketing. We did send out press releases when we got this technology. Had some neat news programs that occurred. And we also, after educating our staff, we did some webinars and some sent out some direct mail pieces to the doctors that we work with, both OD and MD. And so those were the main things that we did. We have a patient newsletter, and we put a description of the technology in there. But I don't think we've really done much for direct-to-consumer marketing. I see it as something that'll probably be in our future, refractive cataract surgery. We don't have a tendency to talk so much about technology in that marketing as much as that there's options to be able to do a lot without glasses after cataract surgery.
What do you call it in your practice, and why?
Well, we call it refractive laser-assisted cataract surgery. So RELAX is how we abbreviate that. And that works really well for the refractive cataract side of our program. And if we do a no charge femtosecond laser for a therapeutic situation, like someone with a real dense cataract or loose annuals or Fuchs dystrophy situation, we call it TLAX, therapeutic laser-assisted cataract surgery.
How about you, Dr. Contos? How are you building demand in your program?
You know, it's interesting. We did the same thing. We sent a press release out to the local news stations, which I have a relationship with, and we do some things with them on occasion. And the response I got back was, "I thought you guys already did cataract surgery with the laser." That's the way I thought it was always done. And so we had to actually educate them. They haven't quite come around yet with that because they don't see that. They thought that's not a story. It's always been like that. So we haven't gotten the media thing going yet, but we don't do any external advertising in our practice other than just our website and what's in the phone book and that sort of thing. We have a Facebook page, but we are an optometry co-management practice. We do a lot of work with optometry in the area. The rural nature of where I live, dictates that to a certain degree. The Pacific Northwest has kind of historically been a large optometric co-management area for cataract surgery since the 80s. So it's just kind of the way things are done up there. And so for us, we spend a lot of time really educating our optometrists because that's really where 60% of my patients are driven by optometry. The rest are just word of mouth from the practice, which has been in place for many years. And so that's really, kind of how we've done it at this point. We haven't really considered doing any external marketing beyond that. It's expensive, and I'm not really sure how much it really brings to us. So we like kind of things the way they are in this regard. So we probably won't make any real changes there. The message that we're giving, we're always trying to educate our optometrists, and we just had a CE event on Friday before I flew here, which was heavily weighted towards laser cataract surgery and kind of where we are now. And there's a lot of interest. Everybody was excited about it, and they kind of want to see where it's all going, and they're sending us patients and happy to see what's happening. So that's kind of what's happening for us right now, and we're just kind of letting it kind of percolate, from the ground up, and it seems to be doing fine.
Excellent. Dr. Whipple?
As you can imagine, I've never done any external marketing. I'm the only one in a hospital system in the Indianapolis area of over 1 million people that's doing femtosecond assisted cataract surgery. So the greater Indianapolis area and all the 6 surrounding counties, there's only one other practice to the far south that has a femtosecond laser. And they have their own ASC. I'm in a medical building owned by the hospital with a surgery center right below me. I used to walk down my back stairs to my car. Now I walk down into the surgery center and then to my car. The local county hospital, my relationship with SightPath is personal. I have a contract with SightPath. I bill the patients for the laser. They pay in cash prior to surgery. SightPath bills me, I pay SightPath. The hospital merely has provided the facility and the space and some nurses to help with the laser room. They don't charge me anything for that space. But the hospital is very proud of the fact that this little county hospital is the only hospital in the whole Indianapolis area that has this technology. And in the last 20 years that I know of, this is the first thing this hospital has ever led in this greater Indianapolis market. And they're proud of that. And so they interviewed me on their webpage, and it had a little video, and they put an ad in the county paper, and that's about as big as it can get, you know, for us. We didn't run big, or they didn't run big ads through all of Indianapolis, but I've had several patients that saw it was not an ad, but an article, about a half a page article about the whole thing that was in the county paper. And I got some good feedback from that, but basically just caring about the patients so they'll go tell their friends and family to come in.
How about you, Dr. Sora? How are you building demand?
Well, we approached it in a multifaceted way. First, we integrated it into our discussion about the cataract surgeries. Instead of just talking about the IOLs, we started talking about the different types of procedures, as I mentioned before, the traditional and the laser. And that really generated most of our laser procedures. We do outside advertising, so we have a marketing firm that does our commercials. So we have TV commercials out there that are specifically focused on LensX laser cataract surgery, and they're professionally done. They're very, very good. We also advertise on the radio, and what used to be the oldie station is now the classic rock station for the same generation of patients, and so that just puts the word out there for others that don't come into my office. As far as optometric referrals, we did a CE course where I talked about LensX laser cataract surgery, and in the back of the auditorium we had I think 4 or 5 stations set up with microscopes and silicone eyes. And so after the talk, we had the ODs go back there, and we had people assisting them, and they would go there and they would try to perform a capsulorhexis under a microscope on a silicone eye. And then after they did that, we had a LensX laser there, and with a silicone button, and they would go there, and it was all ready to go. So they would come in, they'd press the pedal, and it would make all the cuts and do everything. And we'd take that silicone button, put it in a Albemarle Eye Center envelope with my card and give it to them. And so that worked out well. We have an open invitation to all our ODs referring to come join me in the operating room and watch the procedure being done on the patients also.
We do very little external marketing. We've tried it over the years for a variety of things. Just in our market, either we don't do it well or it's just not responded to real well. So we did contact the newspaper, and they came, took a picture. We wrote a story for them, and it was like a newspaper release. It was just for us. It's just kind of word of mouth. As Vance said, I mean, people just keep growing cataracts. It's just insane how many people, as we watch our volume grow each year. And it's not that I'm taking it away from anyone else. It just keeps growing. And it's mostly just internally talking to them about it. And we expect most of the optometric referrals I get are from the optometrists I own or they work for me. Dick Lindstrom once told me he saw an article I had written, because it was one ophthalmologist and 5 ODs in the practice. He said, "Wow, Larry," he said, "you could cure the ophthalmology problem if every ophthalmologist would just go out and hire 2 optometrists. We've got this taken care of." But that's mostly where it comes from for us. Just talking to patients and just telling them about it. We've not our femtosecond laser volume has been so much higher than we anticipated it would be. We've not felt compelled to try any harder.
That's excellent. Now my last question before we go to some of your questions in the audience is going to be for you, Dr. Patterson. So be thinking about your questions, and I'll be there in just a second with the microphone. But Dr. Patterson, you and I have talked this year because you're the editor of Ophthalmology Management, and your January issue talks about, it was kind of a down article. You were talking about the new requirements this year with EHR and all of the new regulations on the practice and all these changes with healthcare reform, and then also with reimbursements in decline. Does technology like this now on your doorstep, brought to you from a full service firm like SightPath, Does that change the scope of how the year is going to end for you?
It's going to end a lot better because of it, that's for sure. It was exciting for us. I was listening to the Indianapolis story. That reminded me, on a different scale. We were the first people. I mean, we're in this little bitty town, and really the nearest town is Knoxville, Tennessee, which is not a monstrous, it's not a big town. It's huge compared to Crossville. And we were the first practice in all of East Tennessee to do femtosecond cataract. And our anesthesia guys come up from Chattanooga, and they constantly were ribbing the ophthalmologist down in Chattanooga. Wow, y'all don't have laser for cataract surgery? They do up in Crossville. And they have a lot of fun with it. But it's been a good thing for us financially. I think it's been uplifting to us. I think we've just felt a lot better. I love femtosecond cataract days. Those are my fun days, Then the next week, gotta get up and make the capsular access, After a few cases, I'm back in the swing of it again, but it feels good. It feels good.
Thanks for answering that. Tell them about Tuesday.
Oh, gosh. Well, the very first day we did it, we were the guinea pigs. When we did it the first day, we had 15 visitors watching, practically an entire SitePath team. Alcon had all these people. Everyone wanted to see and make sure it went well, which is, no pressure on me. Everyone, the staff was wanting to come down. There were just crowds watching it. Now, the patients were all pretty excited. They could see they were part of something special. But the first day, we scrimped. And we were trying to figure out, I think ethically you should tell people when you're the first one to do something on them. I think you should let them know, and I do. I tell them, this is not nearly as complicated as the regular cataract surgery, but you are the first group of people I'm doing this procedure on. One of the lady, she said, well, how many will you have done when you do me? I said, let's see, you're 7th on the case. Let's see, including you, 7. And so we had that conversation a few times, but we started out and we got 12 the first day. And it was tough. It really was. It was kind of tough because I didn't have confidence to sell it. My staff had no confidence at all. And they're all first eyes. Now the second month we had 17. That was easy because 12 of the people, about 10 of them needed their second eye done. So all of a sudden you realize I don't have to come up with 10 people a month. I need about 5 or 6, because most people have 2 eyes that need to be done. And then the next month we had 22, and the next month we had 27, and the next month we had about 22, and then it went down to 17, and then came back up to 23. It was just that kind of thing. But Tuesday, we had 34.
Wow.
Now, I don't know what happened. We just did. I was kind of like, I've never done more than 28 or 29 cases in a day, and this is out of one OR, okay? And my staff was saying, Dr. Patterson, you already got 28. We can't do any more. I said, well, we can do 1 or 2 more. Dr. Patterson, we've already got 30. I said, okay, absolutely. Cut it off at 34. No more. And we actually were having to shunt people into December. We started operating about 7:45, 7:50 that morning, had about an hour and a half lunch break, and got done by 4:30. And how did we do that? Well, we use a trick called a medical ophthalmologist. I've got a guy who quit doing cataract surgery in 2000. He retired doing extra caps and turned all the surgery over to me. And he works a couple of days a week. He tried to go down to 1, but his wife made him go back to work because there's just too much of him around the house. We give him something to do 2 days a week. And once a month, he loves coming up to Crossville. And he's the Italian stallion, Jim Grisolano, and he does the lasers. So my laser day is much easier than my regular cataract surgery day because I can do more cases now than I would on a regular day. I get a little bit of a break. The cases are much quicker, and I still know how to do the laser. I did it the first few months, but now he does it, and it's much more happy that way.
Thank you for telling that story, because that onboarding kind of expectation, I think, is an important one. And I don't mean to make you all crane around, but I saw a question right here. We want to make sure to get to a few of your questions at least.
I was happy to hear that on your first day there was a bunch of SitePath, but also a bunch of Alcon people there. And so that's why I was curious. A lot of times with these marketing efforts with a new technology, Alcon's marketing team and sales force is there to provide educational materials and get the word out to OD networks and so forth. So I was just curious about Alcon's stance on SitePath's entry into using their laser.
Yeah, I can easily talk about that because I've talked to a lot of Alcon people, and early on, a lot of sales reps were very nervous about this concept. They weren't, I don't think they were very happy about it at all. But there was one particular visionary at Alcon said, I think this is going to be a really good idea. It's turned out to be a win-win for my patients, for my practice, for SocPath, and for Alcon. Because there is no way, if SocPath, if Herb Stewart back there had not come to my office back in the late last year, there's no way I'd be doing femtosecond laser cataract surgery. I knew what my numbers were then. I would have never thought I could increase the price and increase the volume at the same time. Who'd have thought it? I just wouldn't, and I don't know, 2-3 years from now, I may buy my own laser. And I don't know which brand it'll be, but it's a very good chance it'll be Alcon because I'm used to using that one now. But there are all kinds of people. Alcon now has a lot of people using their laser, getting used to it. They're getting a royalty fee on every one we do. And they've got potential people who are going to buy a laser down the road also. So this is the biggest win-win thing I've ever been involved in.
And there's several Alcon folks here, just a few feet in front of you, and I'm sure they'd love to put a business card in your hand after the session to answer you directly too, because I know they've been real supportive to us with the fixed laser and to the mobile platform as well. So any other questions? Yes?
A couple of questions, mainly about pricing. If you offer tiered pricing, like you mentioned, a toric lens, can they have the toric lens without the femto? And if they can, what's the justification for the femto on top of the toric in terms of CMS rulings? And the other is if they want to have good distance vision, you say, well, do you want to see without glasses? And they say, well, I always have all my life. Why wouldn't I after cataract surgery? How do you address that?
Well, for us, when my surgery counselor talks to the patient, they're given 2 pricing sheets. One has a LensX laser cataract surgery on the top, and one's a traditional. And each of them have the multifocal, the toric, the LRI on there, and the different prices. Of course, the LensX is higher. And so there, after the discussion, she gets a sense of which way they're leaning, and then and how much astigmatism that for that, for example, the toric. So she'll highlight that on both of them, because she'll say he'll probably recommend that. And so when I talk to the patient, I tell them, you can have the laser, you can have the traditional, and this is going to be the best implant for you. And then of course, I don't like to tell them that you're not going to, you're going to get out of your glasses, because that's a tall order for me. I've got patients who have tremendous, unrealistic expectations. And so I just tell them what I said before, you can get your best vision with this. As far as laser is concerned, the laser almost sells itself. I mean, you tell them this is a procedure that I can do where I'm not going to touch your eye with a blade. And they say, well, what would you do? I said, well, in an ideal world, I would go ahead and get the I'd get the laser cataract surgery, I'd get the toric implant. And so that's what I would do, but it's up to you. And
Dr. Swarf, I might add some color on this for you, Dr. Katzen, because one of the things that I think is really an important distinction when you talk to programs who are doing a lot of volume in the femto space is when you look at their forms and you see the way they've set up their literature and the way they talk through the discussion with the patient, they're not charging for the femto. Not implicitly. It's part of a refractive package that's tied to a refractive IOL. And the regulations are very clear from all of our societies and associations and CMS on what we can and can't charge for if you're charging for the laser. But if you're not charging for the laser at all, then it's a whole other story. And moreover, just because that's its own 90-minute conversation, it's really important that you look back through some of the literature that's been in some of our trade publications, and also at the resource library, because there's talks that have been done for you and your team to kind of walk through that process together. So if there's more questions on pricing, we can talk about them after, but also you've got that resource guide available for you from the SightPath
Matt,
team.
let me interject one quick thing. We don't do that. We actually, if you want a premium experience, if you want to reduce your need for glasses, we don't offer anything outside the laser. That's just part of it, because after the first day of doing this, I realized it was so much better, it was so much more accurate. So I don't have like 60, I just have 3 tiers. It's multifocal accommodative, toric, or just we call it legal to drive, something, or blended vision, whatever like that. And so LTD. So that's how we do it. It just simplified it dramatically. Nobody even asked me, well, could I have a toric? That conversation doesn't even come up.
We also don't offer the advanced technology lenses without the laser. To separate all that out and go through all that, it's the full package. And Larry, I saw several people walking down Bourbon Street last night I don't think were legal to drive. But I don't know that
Fine tune. Okay, we've got one more question right here from this gentleman.
Question, it's really more of a restore question. I have the chairman of the board of the bank that's scheduled next Tuesday. And his passion is training bird dogs, and he shoots a lot. Would you put a restore lens in on this patient?
I guess I would need more information. I'm assuming he's otherwise perfect. Pristine cornea, perfect macula, right pupil size. No astigmatism issues. And I need to know his personality. There's no doubt, and I tell patients, you borrow a little bit from the distance for the reading and a little from the reading for the distance. I'm a golfer. I don't hesitate to put him in my golfer friends. I've done several clear lens extraction restores in golfer friends. Haven't had any complaints with that. But again, it's meeting their expectations. I know Dick McCool in that case likely would do the non-dominant eye with a restore in the dominant eye, or the shooting eye. I don't know exactly how you shoot with a monofocal distance lens. I don't want to speak for him. That's my guess.
It's really helpful. I like what Warren Hill's been coming out with. If you find out what his coma is, if you've got 0.32 microns or more coma, probably he may not be happy. You want to look at that angle cap and a lot of those things. I think that we're beginning to learn why some of our multifocal, most of them are very happy, but a few of them are unhappy. And that's one of the things too that I've been overlooking.
Is he a good dog trainer? Because we do him out in South Dakota on trade. Bird country. Well, a couple things just in closing. There's no way to get to everybody's question, and this is a big conversation because it's a whole paradigm shift. In our practice, we talk about it being kind of a JFK moment, right? Where were you when? Where were you when the femto came to our practice? Because it's really changed every step of our process, from how we handle calls coming in to how we talk to our referring doctors before and afterwards, and then the ongoing things we do with our patients. And to that end, the SightPath team's been very helpful at helping us set up modules for training for the onboarding process that are very operational in nature and with ongoing times to be in front of your staffs to do that training in front of them. And so we thank them for that as well. In closing, I want to thank our panelists, and I'm going to invite Joel Gasson to come up here and close out tonight's session. But as he does, we give a round of applause to our panelists.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for coming. My hope is that you all agree with me that this was really a phenomenal experience. I thank each one of you for being here and your time, and I know it's a busy time for all of you, so thankful. We're grateful for everything you do for us. So with that, we have a reception that we're going now, and again, thanks for everything each of you do, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.